Hey everyone, Nigel and Luke here. Welcome to Crime Zone. Though there have been several true crime documentaries that have highlighted the work of the Innocence Project, Netflix's latest collaboration with the renowned legal advocacy group is arguably the best to date. By using several cases as a lens through which to view broader issues that lead to wrongful convictions in the US, the Innocence Files manages to shine a light on systemic problems with the criminal justice system while maintaining an empathic connection to the lives of those whose stories they tell. Understandably, the series has no shortage of troubling moments, with viewers getting to experience firsthand a mere fraction of the frustration and helplessness felt by the subjects and their families. Today, we want to take a look at some of the most outrageous details exposed in the series, focusing on facts that were shocking, unbelievable, or that simply made us angry. Admittedly, this list is going to be subjective, but we tried to find a balance between things that stood out to us in our own viewings, as well as some of the popular reactions we've seen online. If there's something you think we missed, make sure to tell us about it in the comments below. Before we get to the main video, don't forget to like and subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest content. With that out of the way, here is our list of 7 shocking details exposed in the Innocence Files. Though in some situations investigators have no choice but to build their cases on circumstantial evidence, it's generally understood that biological evidence is much better at satisfying the legal requirements of conviction beyond a reasonable doubt. That's why the 1994 rape conviction of Kenneth Winemko is particularly egregious. Though there was ample biological evidence collected from the scene, and DNA testing was readily available at the time, this evidence was completely overlooked and never analyzed by Detective Thomas Ostin. Though blood, semen, and fingernail DNA evidence would all later lead to Winemko's exoneration, the prosecution instead relied on a bogus jailhouse confession from an incentivized witness and a composite sketch from the victim, who had previously admitted she never got a good look at the perpetrator. Beyond the tragedy of Winemko's wrongful conviction, the lack of initial DNA testing also resulted in no justice for the victim in the case, as by the time the real perpetrator Craig Gonser was identified, the statute of limitations on the case had expired. Though it's often correctly observed in wrongful conviction cases that no amount of money can bring back the time spent in prison, we're willing to bet that some financial compensation is better than none. And though the wild variation in these financial settlements is arguably sometimes an injustice in itself, you would think that any investigation involving the level of misconduct seen in the Alfred Dwayne Brown case would warrant a serious payout. Brown spent 12 years behind bars for his wrongful conviction in a 2003 armed robbery and double murder that involved the killing of a police officer and a store clerk. Lacking any physical evidence, the conviction was secured using a combination of witness intimidation and knowingly concealing exculpatory evidence from Brown's legal team. Upon his release, Brown was initially denied compensation due to the fact that charges had been dropped, but he had not been officially declared innocent. However, following an amended judgment in the summer of 2019 that saw him formally declared innocent, the Texas State Comptroller still denied Brown compensation. His civil lawsuit against Harris County, the city of Houston, and several police officers is currently pending. Although every case covered in the Innocence Files contains a sizable share of injustice, Thomas Hainsworth's 1984 arrest and conviction has a particularly nightmarish quality to it. With no prior record and no objective reason to suspect him of criminal activity, he was spotted on an ill-fated trip to the grocery store by a rape victim and accused of the crime, after which accusations just kept rolling in. Though the trauma and confusion of the victims is understandable, the same can't be said of the actions of police and investigators. Particularly maddening is the fact that after Hainsworth's conviction, crimes following the same pattern and MO continued to happen in the same area of Richmond, Virginia. After the arrest of Leon Davis a couple of months after Hainsworth's conviction, the rapes finally stopped, but no one bothered to revisit his case. It would take 27 years for Hainsworth to fully prove his innocence and to be released from prison, resulting in all of the crimes properly attributed to Leon Davis. Perhaps the most jarring statistic in the Innocence Files concerning witnesses is that almost 70% of the more than 360 convictions overturned by DNA evidence in the US have resulted from eyewitness misidentification. Not to be confused with coerced or fabricated eyewitness testimony, such as in the Frankie Carrillo case, witness misidentification plays a role in a shocking number of wrongful convictions. Though this information has become more widely understood and accepted by the public in recent years, it is difficult to shake the intuitive sense that our memories are somehow unbiased and accurate, comparable to video footage. Not only is this not the case, but in times of severe trauma, we are even less likely to have perfect recall of events. The series points to several factors that amplify this effect. Some, like weapon focus, are natural responses to violence that draw a victim's attention towards a threat and impact their ability to remember other details of a crime. Others, however, are the result of sloppy investigative work, such as improperly constructed photo lineups and the coaching of witnesses by police, whether intentional or not. A combination of these issues led to several eyewitnesses identifying Thomas Hainsworth as their attacker, even though crucial differences in appearance and height existed between Hainsworth and the real perpetrator, Leon Davis. According to the Innocence Project, only 25 states have currently implemented reforms to ensure the integrity of police lineups. Though the Innocence Files presents several examples of what's known as a Brady violation, or a failure to disclose exculpatory evidence to defendants, the most appalling case is arguably that of Chester Holman. His 1993 conviction for the robbery and murder of an exchange student in Philadelphia relied heavily on the coerced testimony of a man named Andre Dawkins, whose lengthy police record was partially hidden from Holman's defense team at trial. Not only was this a violation of Holman's rights, one of the many notorious examples of misconduct by prosecutor Roger King, but the full extent of Dawkins' coerced testimony and lack of credibility was one of the major reasons for Holman's later exoneration. Even more shocking, Holman might have been granted a new trial much earlier if the prosecution had not gone to further lengths to cover up their misconduct concerning Dawkins' criminal record, calling their decision not to hand over this evidence a clerical error. Though it is now known that the prosecution deliberately lied about knowing of Dawkins' full record, the lie caused Holman to lose 2 appeals in 1997 and 1999, costing him 19 more years in prison before his eventual exoneration. While it's tough to narrow down the outrageous conduct of former forensic odontologist Michael West to one defining incident, we felt that this particular detail was too hard to ignore. In some of the most iconic footage from the series, West can be seen almost comically rolling the dental mold of a top set of teeth over marks on the bodies of 2 victims. Marks he insists are bite wounds inflicted by LaVon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer. Astonishingly, however, it is revealed in the course of the series that there were no corresponding marks from a bottom jaw on any of these wounds, meaning they were not bite marks at all, but instead likely resulted from crayfish activity in the water where the bodies were recovered. Despite this, West's testimony in the trial of both Brooks and Brewer were largely responsible for their wrongful convictions, and West remains unapologetic about the bad forensic analysis, to say the least. While the series presents a skeptical attitude towards bite mark evidence overall, West's analysis didn't even hold up under the scrutiny of others in his field, such as Dr. Richard Souveron, who famously used bite mark evidence in the Ted Bundy case. West was also the first member to be suspended from the American Board of Forensic Odontology, shockingly before his analysis and testimony were solicited in the Kennedy Brewer case. As it stands, bite mark evidence is still admissible in all 50 states. While the concept of prosecutorial immunity is well understood in legal circles, the extent to which it shields prosecutors from the consequences of their misconduct is one of the most compelling points raised in the Innocence Files. We are given several examples of this misconduct throughout the series. Witness intimidation in the cases of Chester Holman and Alfred Dwayne Brown, falsified evidence in the cases of LaVon Brooks and Kennedy Brewer, and numerous examples of failure to disclose exculpatory evidence in the form of phone records, DNA samples, and the extensive criminal history of a star witness. None of these actions by prosecutors resulted in direct criminal charges or civil damages, however, due to the legal immunity afforded to prosecutors. In fact, rather than consequences, repeat offenders such as Roger King and Linda Davis were given significant prestige, and in the case of Davis specifically, a later appointment as a judge. A statistic near the end of the series states that since 1970 there have been over 16,000 cases of prosecutorial misconduct in the US, but less than 2% have resulted in public sanction. Though this is unsurprising given the broad scope of prosecutorial immunity, it is nonetheless a shocking revelation. That brings us to the end of our list. Make sure to let us know what you thought the most shocking detail in the Innocence Files was in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to Crime Zone for more true crime content like this, making sure to hit the notification bell to stay up to date with our latest videos. Thank you for watching.